Hi, Chat Matters. Before we move on to this special and great episode, I just want to quickly say that during the recording of this episode, we by mistake called Dr. Fernandez with the title Miss Fernandez, and we truly apologize because she holds the title of a doctor and she just got her MD degree. So we truly apologize. So every time we say Miss Fernandez, we truly mean Dr. Fernandez. So thank you for clicking on this episode, and I hope you enjoy episode 7.
Welcome back, Chat Matters. Today is our 7th episode of Chat Med, and we're very excited to have a special guest, Ms. Fernandez. So, without further ado, Nupur, go. You can take the stage.
Hello, everyone. We would like to welcome Ms. Fernandez, who is currently a fourth-year medical student at UVM Larner, and will be starting her journey into residency at UCLA Harbor very shortly. Thank you, Ms. Fernandez, once again for being here. Would you please introduce yourself briefly?
Oh, you guys are so kind. Yes, I am so excited to be here on ChatMed. Like Nupur and Ryan said, I actually am from Los Angeles. I grew up in East Los Angeles. I'm one of 3, so I have 2 younger brothers. I'm the first one in my family to actually go to medicine. My family, we're Mexican immigrants, so it's a really big deal that I'm the first one on this path. In undergrad, I always wanted to go to UCLA. That was my goal. So I got into UCLA. I was a bio major. Unfortunately, the first 2 years went a little rocky. So after graduation, I chose to do a post-bac year, which I will talk more about that later on. And then after I picked post-bac year, I actually started I dabbled in entrepreneurship for a while, which makes my path to medicine a little different. So if you're interested in business side of medicine or things like that, I can also touch upon that later on. I applied to medical school, only MD schools, and I was actually got 5 interviews, and I was accepted to 1 medical school, Robert Larner College of Medicine, which brought me to Vermont, which was a huge culture clash, different than anything I had ever experienced. I went from being in the huge city of LA to being in a really small town of Burlington. And after 4 years of medical school, I am about to graduate in 2 weeks now, guys. No, I'm moving back to LA in 2 weeks, but I'm graduating in a month. But I did successfully match into family medicine at UCLA at Harbor-UCLA. So I'll be returning back to LA, and I'm super excited.
Wow, congratulations. And LA, the great city. I love that city. I've heard many good things about that city, and I want to go there too. So you obviously have quite the resume with your entrepreneurial endeavors and all the prestigious universities you've attended. So we wanted to go into our first topic for today would be pre-med, high school, and college, right? So during undergrad, what was your major, and in what way, how did that shape your learning experience, and what difficulties did you face during that time period?
Okay, this is actually a great question and one I get all the time. So I went, in high school, you work really hard to get into the best college, which is awesome. When you get to college, you realize that a lot of people also worked really hard to get into that college. So all of a sudden, you're a small fish in a big pond again. So like I said, I went to UCLA, which is actually known for its health and sciences. They have a huge Ronald Reagan Medical Center, medical schools, PhD schools. Like it's just really known for the arts, for the sciences. So when I walked in, I was super intimidated. I was all of a sudden sitting in a class of 300 people, of the valedictorians, the Victorians of their own classroom, in the first chemistry class. Those classes are really intimidating. And at UCLA, and I'm sure it's for other universities as well, you can come in with a major declared, or you can come in undecided. You really don't have to pick your actual major until about your 3rd year, until you start your upper division classes. So I came in as a neuroscience major because I really enjoyed learning about the brain, and I was just so fascinated by it. When I went into my first couple of science classes, I remember it was chemistry 14A, which is chemistry for the health science majors. I realized it was going to be a mission to get through that. Then I kept going. I was like, okay, I can do this. And I did physics 1A, physics 6A, that's what it was, physics 6A. And that was also really tough. So I was like, okay, maybe I don't want to, and I met a couple of friends who were neuroscience majors at the time, and they were like soaring. So I was like, okay, maybe I don't want to be in classes with them. So from there, I was like, you know what, I still like psychology, so maybe I'll be a psychobio major. And a psychobio major, you can take some psych classes and some biology classes. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. And then I started investigating. I was like, hey, I need to be really strategic. I want to get into medical school. So my goal is to get the highest science GPA I possibly could and get the most leadership activities I can. So I need a major that's going to allow me to do both, allow me to, compete competitively and get as many grades, high grades, and have that time period. Also, I can't just be in studying all the time. So I chose to become a bio major for that specific region. It was a very strategic reason. As a bio major, I got to do some fun upper division classes. They weren't specifically medicine or physiology related, but here's a trick. They were still science classes. So I was taking a paleontology class, I was taking a plant class, a rock class, and I was getting A's in those classes really easily, and that was counting towards my science GPA. So that's something that was kind of like the strategy in undergrad for me. And because my paleontology class didn't take as much time as, let's say, if I was taking an upper division anatomy class, I was able to become a president and even found my own club during undergrad as well. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, that seems like you had a strategic plan, like you mentioned, and everything laid out, and then it's just time to execute, right? So it's like I like to make the analogies like SpaceX, as we've seen, like everything needs to be so precise. And I'm sure in your experience and your uh, college career, it seems like it was a similar pathway, that like a rocket ship pathway.
Yeah, I totally.
Yes, that's a great analogy.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Roland's saying. Like, you had a whole strategy, and like, it's very impressive. And like, from what you're saying, you're like, I can just tell that you're very passionate about these classes too. Like, even though they're easy, you felt like you like these classes a lot. So, I just want to say that too.
Yeah, no, I honestly, that was the intention of biology also. Like, I wouldn't be like, oh, whatever, I'll just take a plant class. And then once I got into the plant class, I ended up taking two because I really enjoyed it. And it's something I would never think about. And also, one thing you have to keep in mind, even if you're going to be pre-med and you're interested in it, you don't have to take physiology classes in undergrad. I think that's a big misconception. If you're super interested in it and you want to, fine. But if you don't really want to, that's okay too. I have friends in medical school who were English majors and art majors. The only caution I have about being a non-science major is that those upper division English and art classes will not count for your science GPA. That means that you have to do really, really like extra well on the limited amount of science classes that you do have. Does that make sense?
Yeah, quick question. So do you think it's better to
Yeah.
have like I think very asset management wise, like a diversified class portfolio, so that like one of your classes, so it's not like if you do one class, it's not like 33% of your course portfolio. So do you think in your experience it's better to have maybe more science classes, science geared classes, to kind of balance it out, just in case you're not able to perform as highly in one class compared to another?
Mm, so let's see. If you can get A's in all your science classes, bravo, do that. That is 100%. Let's say if you're somebody who, like I was an undergrad who I was really active in extracurriculars and I wanted to do that. That was so important to me. So I needed science classes that were going to take 100% of my time. I needed science classes that were going to take 50% of my time. And if I was going to get the same outcome, why not? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that I think that's kind of the pathway I want to go to, because for me, and I know a lot of a lot of the panel and our co-hosts here today, we're not for me personally, I can't sit at science and read like science all day. So that's kind of the great answer, by the way.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you so much for that great response. The way you explained all the different classes you took and that strategic plan is really interesting because that's a whole new perspective and that's so important to recognize. And it also helps all of our listeners kind of gain that different perspective and kind of think about their journey if they're interested as well. So could you tell us a little bit more about your journey on a non-traditional path into medicine, since that is something you pursued? So Could you please talk a little bit more about that?
Sure, sure. So, like I said at the beginning, I've always been interested in the business side of medicine. I think helping one person is amazing, and there's such power in being a physician. But I also think in the U.S. we have these huge systemic issues in healthcare that can't be fixed just by seeing one patient at a time. So at a really young age, I was interested in, well, what is it like? How do hospitals work? How does like Obamacare work? How is that going to influence my practice as a physician in the future? And with that, I started realizing that I had friends outside of medicine. So as an undergrad, I would actually I would actually try to gain friends in like the business school, or friends that were, public health majors or things like that. And one of my friends introduced me to a fellowship program at UCLA Anderson, which is a school of business. And I know this isn't a business podcast, but I think it's really important if any of you guys are interested. It's called the Radion Fellowship Program, and it's for college graduates who are interested in going to business school. So here's the thing. So after graduating high school, I did this 1-year fellowship at Anderson, and it's kind of like a post-bac for business school. So it prepares you to go to business school. It gives you an introduction to what business school classes are like. It gives you an introduction to economics, to marketing, to strategic partnerships, strategic thinking, things like that, and how to prepare your applications. You get a little taste of what it would be to be a business student. So in this fellowship class, I was one of 2 pre-med students here. So at a class of about, must have been like 150 students that they were all going to business school, I was one of 2. And it was really cool because I don't know if you guys know, but healthcare in itself is a huge industry. It's a huge business. A majority of people who run hospitals are MBA students or MBA graduates. They never went to med school and never touched a patient at all. And I personally think that's a great disservice, and they're missing a huge perspective. So I'm actually a really huge advocate for people, pre-meds, just like you, doctors who are interested in med, actually getting the training like an MBA, from an MBA, to be able to have those conversations. And the reason why I specify the training is because it's really different. It's like, what if I walk into a board meeting and be like, I've been a doctor for 30 years. I know the way things run. I just want this, this, and this. The thing is, medicine is its own language. And business has its own language in itself. So a lot of the times physicians and business people butt heads just because they can't communicate with each other. And that's okay. We each have our own things. I think that's really cool when you have, as a physician, you can have a combo of both, then you can kind of speak both languages. So after this MBA fellowship program, I applied to medical school, then I went to med school, and I found that in med school, I was kind of taking some of that language that I learned from the business fellowship into medical school. And I actually got involved in a lot of really cool programs because since I knew marketing skills and I kind of knew how to market myself a lot better through like social media and networking, as a first-year med student, I was able to make a lot more connections than my fellow classmates did. And I think that's what really gave me an edge. So I did struggle my first and second year of medical school, like everyone does. But I think one of the main reasons with my third and fourth year, I was able to network and actually make connections with startups in Silicon Valley and start working with them and provide that medical perspective. And I wrote about this combination of medicine and business in my residency application. And I honestly think that's what got me into Harbor-UCLA.
I'm just amazed what you just said. Like, uh, I'm blown out what you just said actually right now. I can't believe like everyone struggles, right? And I can't believe you use that knowledge for your third and fourth year to communicate and help yourself with medical school. And many people might think these two different things, business and med, are two different things, right? They never go together, but you never, at the end of the day, they come together at some period of times and can help each other, right? So I was just blown away of what you said and like what you have achieved. So you just told us your whole experience through the whole bachelor's, and I just wanted to ask for our next topic. Through medical school, right? You just got matched into family medicine, is that correct?
Yeah.
So my question would be, from your 4 years of medical school, I know that's a long period of time. What was your typical day during medical school? So you can just say like, I know that medical school first 2 years are like learning, or the next 2 years are clinical. So I just want to ask, like, what was your day-to-day life between those like 2 years?
Sure. So my first year, so keep in mind, this is non-COVID era. Okay. So my first year, so one of the real, so this is a quick plug for Larner College of Medicine. Once you guys get there, it's a really great university, really great medical school. We pride ourselves in having an active learning curriculum, which means that you don't just get a bunch of PowerPoints and you're expected to memorize everything. Like, once you finish college, like, oh my God, I'm so done with that. I need to actually, learn hands-on. So Larner has really made this really cool, innovative curriculum that allows you to really have some hands-on learning. So the way it works, we do a lot of reverse classrooms, which I'm thinking, are you familiar with that concept?
Yeah, is it like when the students have to like kind of teach the class?
Almost. So the way we do it at Larner is that, let's say, so the day before your class, they'll give you a list of pre-work material that you have to review. So you'll work through, let's say, like, I don't know, read like 5 pages of material or something, and then you take a readiness quiz. So it's like a five to 10 question quiz just to placing you on the information, but it's more for your own learning. It's nothing, none of that is graded. It's just for you to check your understanding. The next day you go to a workshop class where you're placed groups of 4 or 5 students. And a lot of my classes were case-based. By that, I mean a physician would go up in front and say, okay, guys, this is what we're talking about diabetes today. Let me tell you about a patient I just saw. And he would put the question on the board, say like, 55-year-old obese woman comes in with uncontrolled diabetes for the past 3 weeks. She asks you what's the difference between the short-term insulin versus long-term insulin. How would you respond to this question? And then we would get together in our groups, and together we would talk about, oh, I would say this, or I would say this, I would say that. And then we would share our response to the whole class. And this is the way I learned my first 2 years of med school, which is really revolutionary from the way other medical schools run. And for me, since I'm such a hands-on learner and I love socializing and I learn by explaining things to others, and you learn by teaching and you learn by hearing from your classmates, I think this really was really beneficial for me. So then after that, you would do this for 2 weeks and then take an exam at the end of the week. So that's for preclinical years. If you're a clerkship student, your day-to-day is very different. So in the morning, I would wake up. I usually wake up like around, let's say 5. I'm such a morning person. I always like to do at least an hour of studying before I went to clinic. So from 5 to 6, I would study. Let's say from 6 to 7, I would study. I had to get ready still. I would go to the hospital, and I would be at the hospital from, let's say 6 to let's say 7 to like 3 p.m. Depending on what rotation I was doing. So sometimes it would be longer, like if I was doing an OB rotation or a surgery rotation, those hours are usually 12 or 24-hour shifts. And then I would get home and I would still have to study because during your clerkship years, you have to take a shelf exam at the end of each block. You just have to study and then wake up and do the next day. So I would say clerkship year is the hardest and most intensive time because you have to do 2 things. You have to be a student and you have to work at the clerkship, work in the hospital during the same time. So it gets very busy. During your 4th year, once you actually choose what specialty you want, you don't have to take any more of their shelf exams. So you just have to go into the clinic, and when you're back home, you can use that time for whatever you want, which for me ended up being researching residencies and applying for residencies. And it's a whole new fun can of worms.
Yeah, I think you mentioned one thing about getting up in the morning and getting the work done in the morning. I think I'm not sure. I'm sure you'll agree, but isn't it just different? The energy and like the work that you do in the morning is just quantifiably or like exponentially better than something that I'll be doing at 10 p.m. at night. Is that the same for you?
Oh yeah. Oh yes, Rohan, of course. I just feel, and I have, especially after eating breakfast and having my first cup of coffee, like that's when I feel the strongest. So I always like to use that time. And in my first year, I do even try to push that time. So I would wake up earlier and earlier. So I would wake up like at 4 a.m. and try to get like 3 hours of studying before done. Yeah, so you'll learn to opt.
Yeah, like I've been doing that for the past 6 months and it's just been like so good for me and productive wise. I am able to like I have like a nice balance around my day. I get my naps and I still am like doing good in school and extracurriculars and businesses are still going well. So that to me, when people ask, when I love when people like do that because it's really for me personally, it's just a good routine to have. And it
Yeah.
like you're still able to get some sleep because you just go a little bit early and you make it up in the morning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, before I rant too much about early morning stuff, um, I wanted to get a quick question. So far, I've been pretty impressed with your journey throughout medical school. But is there anything you would have done differently if you had to redo it?
Let's say, I would say in undergrad, I
Mhm.
was really pretty discouraged my first 2 years because I got a couple of C's in my first 2 years of college, and I was really discouraged if I was ever going to be able to become a doctor or apply to medical school. And this idea of a post-bac was people were saying it, people were not saying it. Like I just didn't know much about it. So I wish I would have known that a lot of people do post-bacs and
Mhm.
that is very common. So I'll just explain to you guys a little bit more about my experience with that. So for those of you that don't know, a post-bac is a 1 to 2 year uh, graduate school certificate program that you can do after college. So there's two types of post-bacs. There's a career changer. So let's say you were an arts major and didn't take any science classes in undergrad and decided that, oh no, I really want to go to med school. So you do a 2 year post-bac program where you take all the pre-med requirements plus some upper division courses. Or you can do a post-bac like the one I did, which was a GPA enhancer. And that one, it's just to literally just to boost your GPA. So it's 1 year of additional upper division classes that you can use to go med schools that, you know what, maybe took me a little longer, but I can do really well in science classes and med school is going to be fine for me. I'll be able to handle the first work. So again, this is another time to be strategic about where you spend your resources. So like I said, I went to undergraduate at UCLA. It's a very competitive school. So I chose to do my post-bac at a Cal State LA. So a Cal State school is, even though it's still a great university, it's not as competitive as UCLA. So my post-bac, and that was also a strategic course for me. Like I wasn't going to go and do a whole year of upper division classes with students that had already beat me the first time. Like I was not interested in that. Like I need to go where I can get the best grade and I can make sure like that I can check that box off. So I did do a post-bac there. I didn't get O's. I got 1B. And that was enough to put on my application.
Yeah, thank you for that wonderful answer again. I just wanted to keep on going. Just ask like a follow up question to that. Like all your hard work you put in, I know that I know like there should be a balance. Like you said, you like to wake up at 5 a.m. and like do your work, and then also have like stuff you want to do for your own, for your health, for your mental health, for your physical health, or just hang out with family or friends, right? So I wanted to ask, oh, with medical school or college, like how did you allocate enough time to like spend the things like you like to do for fun? Like I like to exercise or hang out with my friends that play basketball. So that's what I like to do on my free time. So I wanted to ask you, how did you find time with your busy, very busy schedule with business and medical school and that, and to allocate some time for that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, in medical school, after my first year, I was really tired and just like really burnt out with everything. And I realized that like taking time for yourself wasn't just like a fun thing, like it was actually really essential. Like it was super essential just to keep that stamina going. So actually one of the things, so I really love yoga and Larner takes wellness very seriously. So they allocate funds to hire a yoga teacher to come and teach yoga on Wednesdays for students for free. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to take this yoga class every Wednesday, no matter what. If we have an exam, it doesn't matter. I'm going to go to yoga. And I did. So my first year, I went to every yoga class on Wednesday. My second year, I became a leader of the organization because I said, well, I'm going to come anyways. I might as well like help bring the mats and help organize. So I did that. And then my third year, once I was in clerkships, like doing yoga just became such a habit at that point. And it was something that I loved. And like even now this morning, I got up and I went to a yoga class and I came back and got ready. Um, so definitely I recommend picking something that you love to do because it has to be enjoyable. If you hate running, don't say, okay, well, I'm going to go running. Like, no, it has to be something enjoyable and stick to it. Say, I'm going to give myself that. And for me, it was easy because it was an actual club and, my friends were going to yoga and it was there at school. So I had no excuse. Like the only thing I had to do was close my laptop and walk next door. Like I had no excuse. I was already in my yoga pants because I was studying all day. So,
Yeah, I just
and
think
then
it's
it's just,
sorry. Keep on going. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
no, I was just gonna say it has to be a habit. It develops into a habit after a time, like taking care of yourself. And if you actually scheduling that time into your schedule, it's harder to take off than I feel than say, oh, well, maybe if I have time, I'll add it on.
No, I was gonna say it was really cool of your medical school to actually hire a yoga instructor. I feel like they can. I feel like that's very essential. That when you get into medical school, I know it's very selective. So if you get into medical school, you just go to that one or a couple of medical schools you get accepted to. But I feel like even for colleges, right? You want to pick a college that takes care of your mental health and physical health. Because think about that, you're doing this education for 8 years. It's gonna be a lot of work. Like, of course, education is important, but your brain cannot really handle all that information getting in your head, right? So I feel like it's very important. And I feel like it was very nice of your medical school to hire that yoga instructor.
Oh yeah, Larner is a great medical school. Like they take wellness very seriously. Sometimes before exams, they'll bring us like fresh fruit or snacks or tea. So I've really enjoyed that part.
Yeah, I think I might need to apply to Larner, and they should sponsor you for that. You free advertising right here.
Yeah.
It sounds like a great school. I like for me, I haven't been recent. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't do my due diligence or my homework about medical schools yet. But like for me, I've been going, to be honest, like the big names, right? Like I've been like Harvard Medical School and stuff like that. But it's important to do your research. And I think you mentioned before, you took your time to research residencies, right?
To reach I researched post-bac programs.
Yeah, so like how important was that time to take and finding out like how like I'm having trouble phrasing it, like finding out how you will fit perfectly in this school. Like what did you take and how crucial is doing that, taking that time out and doing that homework?
I would say it depends what school, right? So I've always been like very goal oriented and strategic. So my goal was always to get to med school. I knew UCLA, that name as a college, would get me there. Post-bac, like whatever school, it doesn't really matter. Unless there's post-bacs that are connected to med schools that give you an automatic admission, like those are really great. So those go a different category. For medical school, like I said, so competitive. It's really where you get in. So I actually hired a consultant when I applied to med school, and he, based on my stats, he gave me like a list of med schools. Coming from California, I'm not sure if you know this, maybe not, but California has the highest number of colleges, but the least number of medical schools.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
So
crazy.
we only have 9 medical schools, and actually there was one more medical school, Kaiser, that just opened recently. So California has 10 medical schools total. These are MD schools. We have a couple of more DO schools. So there's a joke going around that says that California exports more pre-meds than fruits and vegetables. And it's so true. I'm sure every single medical school in the country has somebody from California, except the Texas ones, because they only accept in-state applicants. So I hired this consultant to really curate a list of schools that I would accept me with my hours and interest in primary care. But then I also did do my research and made sure that I didn't apply to schools that only accepted in-state applicants, because then you're just like paying your $60 and they're not going to accept you anyways. There's also a couple of resources that'll show you what percentage of their incoming class are out-of-state students versus in-state students. So Vermont did take a lot of out-of-state students, and they were actually increasing at that time, or still also interested in diversifying. So they made a really big push to, get people of color to come to Vermont, because Vermont is primarily a very white state. So I actually got a scholarship when I first started med school to come to Vermont, which is really cool. And and I think I was like one of 10 or 12 people of color in my incoming class. So not too much. And it's definitely changed. And Vermont's been each class has been more diverse than the last, which I think is another really great aspect of my school. But, yeah.
Thank you so much for touching on that. It's interesting to look at the different things you looked at in medical schools, as you talked about Vermont and the different percentages of what kind of students they accept and where. So that's really interesting to look at. It's something I've never really heard about before. So it's actually really like it's really in depth to kind of look at that and to understand where you want to apply, and beyond just a good medical school or with any type of medical school, looking at the different things that make it unique or how they accept them. So I wanted to know, we're going to move into our next topic. So you recently experienced match day, and now you're moving into residency, as you said, in about 2 weeks. So I just wanted to know, what was your process kind of going into or applying or kind of into the residency path?
Yeah, that is a great question because it gets more complicated. Like applying to medical school is really complicated. And I think the residency program is, it's weird. So applying to residency is really like online dating. And the reason why I say that is because, okay, let me start from the beginning. Once you choose your specialty, you're now applying for a job. After medical, once I graduate, I'm going to have an MD. I'm going to be a doctor, but now I need a job. So the residency is to train you. And once after your residency, you get your license. So now you're able to practice as a physician. So to apply for residency, I applied to hospitals. Some hospitals are affiliated with universities, some are not, some are community programs. So I knew I wanted to go back to Los Angeles, and there's so many family medicine programs that I knew that was going to be all I needed to apply to. So I did my research and I applied to 23 family medicine residency programs, mostly in Los Angeles, 2 in NorCal, and 2 and probably 3 in the San Diego area. And I, applied for them, did my personal statement, submitted my grades, my test scores, everything. In November and October, I started getting residency interview invites. So I got 15 invites from hospitals, right? And then over November, I interviewed at each site. So usually med schools applicants have to travel to each of the residency sites, like by airplane, and pay for their own airplane and their own lodging and everything. But this year, because of COVID, everything went virtual. So like me and a lot of my classmates saved a lot of money by avoiding the traveling costs. So I actually really love that everything went virtual. So I had 2 weeks in December where I was doing virtual interviews. Every day I either had an interview or a social in the afternoon, an interview and a social, or 2 socials and an interview, some sort of combination. And then at the end of that, I ranked the programs that I liked from 1 to 15. So all the programs that gave me interviews. So 1 was like, oh, I love this program, I cannot wait to go there. And 15 is like, I do not even want to go there at all. Right. And then I submitted this rank list to a program. And then hospitals did the same thing. So they also rank their applicants from 1 to like 50 or 1 to 100. And then this computer dials it up, does some sort of thing that nobody really knows how it happens. And then on one day, each applicant gets 1 email and you have to go to that school. Like it's a contract obligation to enter this residency program. You can't say no. If you do say no, you're barred from ever doing the match again. So it's a big deal for med students that day. Usually it's an in-person thing where you get an envelope and you have the choice whether or not to reopen this envelope in front of your crowd of parents and families and classmates, or you can also read it in private. So it was really funny. So my parents are fully vaccinated and my brothers are too. So they came to Vermont and they were with me when we had our match party. So another thing that makes Larner unique is that since we know match day is already really stressful, so we try to make it really fun. They always have a fun theme. So this year theme was like a tropical theme. So everybody was like dressed in tropical clothing, like pretended they were on a tropical vacation. So my parents and I were there and we were in front of a Zoom screen just like this. And then they said, okay, Jhaimy, open your email. And I got my phone and I opened my email and I was looking at it and I was so nervous. I couldn't find it with the school. Like I looked back into the emails and I couldn't find it. So I had my dad sitting next to me and I was like, where am I going? And then he says, look, it's UCLA. I was like, what? So I was so excited. Harbor-UCLA was actually my number 2 choice. So definitely I'm super grateful to be there and super excited.
No, I just want to say congratulations. That's very impressive. It's a long process too, so I'm very happy you got into your second top choice too. And and like that's a very long process. Thankfully, I have some time getting to that process, so I can have some time to prepare for that. But of course, you persevered really hard for your goal, and you got your second top choice. So I just want to say congratulations on that. So our last question, unless the panel wants to ask anything else, from the basically from all this experience, medical school, college, high school, and for you said you come from a very unique background community, right? So I wanted to ask, how would you use all this experience? Of course, you want to be a doctor, save lives, make sure they're okay. I wanted to ask, how can you use all that experience to just give back to your community at the end of the day?
Yeah, no, that's a really great question and something I ask myself all the time. It's like med school it's a long process. It's hard. And I think as pre-meds, we have this conception in our head where like, well, I'm going to work now, but I'll give back later. When I'm a doctor, I'll give back. But for me, I never like that. Maybe I'm just impatient. But I was like, why can't I start giving back now? Like, why do I have to wait to be a doctor to start making a difference? So I always wanted to challenge that assumption. So starting in high school, I always seek leadership opportunities and started to find my own program. So in high school, I started an organization called Operation Buy a Cow, which was an idea. I was 15 years old. I went to church one day. There was a priest was talking about an organization called Heifer International that sold then that was interested in lowering poverty around the world, but they didn't want to give people just like food or lunch or dinner. They wanted it to be sustainable. So they gave them a cow. So with a cow, they could farm, they could have milk, make cheese, sell the cheese, maybe have a calf, start their own farm. So I thought that was such a great idea. Like I love that idea. I was like, you know what? I want to help buy a cow. So when I was a junior in high school, I decided I want to fundraise $500 to buy a cow. And I was like, what can I do? Well, I can do car washes. Maybe I'll do yard sales. Maybe I'll talk to my community, people in my community, and they can donate clothes, and I can do a yard sale. Well, I did. In my first year, I actually fundraised $1,000. So that was enough for two cows, which was super cool. And then my senior year, I was like, I want to do more. So I fundraised my senior year, fundraised $2,000. And I actually wrote about this experience in my personal statement for college. And I would always say, like, that's the story that got me into college. And the reason why I share this experience with you is because it's everything about it is neat. Like I found out that idea in the community because my family and I go to church. I motivated my family to help me out with my neighbors, my aunts, my cousins. Like that was the community who was helping me, wash the cars, donate the food, like make the tamales to sell. And we got to enjoy that together. And I always said, this type of experience is going to make me a great doctor because I already have ties to the community. Like my neighbors, they know me as the girl that went around that wanted to like sell tamales to fundraise money. Like they know me, and I was practicing those public speaking skills, practicing those engaging skills. And you want a physician who can do that, right? You want a physician that's embedded in the community. So I wrote about that in personal statement. And so then I went to college. In college, I did the same thing. I was like, you know what? What's my thing? What's my cause? I found an organization called Operation Mend that helped injured warriors that had a facial reconstruction, plastic surgery. So I founded a club, got people, did the same thing. In med school, I did the same thing, but just a startup. Like it's something that I know that I like to do. It's something that I know I'm good at and I enjoy. So I just keep like it's funny. I talked to some of my friends who are high school. They're like, "Oh, Jhaimy, we knew you were going to do that." Like, it's just such a Jhaimy thing to do. And I think I like challenge each of you to ask that question to yourself. Like, what is a very Rohan thing to do? Like, oh yeah, duh, that's what Rohan does all the time. Or like, what's a very Ryan thing to do? Or what's a very Nipur thing to do? Like, find that thing that's your friends can be like, oh yeah, that's what he does, and write about it, and become a leader in it, become a mentor in it, start an organization. And that's what medical schools want. So right now you might be a high school student and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to be where I'm going to write about in my personal statement. Well, actually, you can start doing it now. Like do your version 1, right? And then when you get to college, do version 2. And then when you become to medical school, you do version 3. And for me, like having that entrepreneurship side it's always been, right? Like I started this talk, I've always wanted to be a primary care physician, but I want to give back to my community. Like that's so important. And I'm just not going to wait until I become a doctor to start doing it, because then I'm going to have to start from scratch. I'm going to be like, when you work out both legs at the same time. You don't want just one calf to be like really strong and the other calf to be like wimpy.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's really incredible to hear about all of the different ways you gave back to your community and still are till this day and even ahead in the future. I definitely agree with your perspective. How can I give back to my community now, not and wait until later? That's something that really inspires me, and I think our community is who supports this and who helps us become the person we are today. So now we are going to end off. I want to say thank you so much for being here, taking time out of your day to be here and talk to us and to give such a great advice and to really talk about your experience, which I hope our listeners will definitely take away a lot of things from. But before we end off, I want to ask, does the panel want to say anything?
Yeah, before I end up, we end up. I just want to say thank you so much, Miss Fernandez, for coming. I usually say there's like 24 hours in a day, and you spend like an hour with us. And I just want to say thank you so much for spending your time with us. And I'm like,
Aw.
this episode was amazing. Like, I I I think like you totally deserve to get in that residency in medical school because you're the applicant that had everything. It was
Oh,
well,
you're so sweet.
donating, like doing everything, extracurriculars, being smart, and like helping the community at the end of the day. You were not just concentrated on the academics of school, you were concentrated in help even giving back to the community. And like you're right, some people say I'll do this in 10 years. Like I procrastinate on many things, right? But I love how you took the initiative to help back and give the community. You're like, I'm not waiting 10 years to do that. I'm not waiting till I'm attending a physician. I'm doing it now, and that's what I love.
Yeah, I think just to add on that, it was just incredible story, just like inspiring, because I like how you took action, right? It's your life. You want to be the precursor, and our my quote that we're gonna share in a bit is literally basically what you've done, right? Taking the charge in your life and making, like, when they look back, what did Ms. Fernandez do during her life? And then they'll say she took whatever she could and she tried to build a positive environment. That's something that I want our because that's how our world would evolve and become a better place with more people like you. So once again, thank you so much for that.
Aw, you guys are so sweet. And honestly, I really enjoyed this experience. Before we leave, I just want to tell you, so I actually have some pretty cool, exciting things. If you guys really enjoyed this podcast and want to stay connected, because I want to stay connected with you guys. I think like giving back to people. Like I always tell my friends, like I went through this whole path and now I get to keep it to myself. Like that's not fair. Like there's so many things I learned along the way that I want to share with you guys. So for the past 3 months, I've been really growing my social media presence. So on TikTok and on Instagram, and I connect with pre-meds, all the way from high schoolers to college, post-bacs, because I guess I've just been so old now. And I'm always sharing advice. So please connect with me on TikTok. I'm sure you guys, I'll share out the handle. Send me any questions you have. I'm actually on my link tree, which you'll see on my Instagram account. I'm going to actually post a link to my personal statements that I've written. So as I realized that that's could actually, Nipur, I think I sent mine to you, right?
Yeah, it was amazing and very helpful.
Okay, good. Yeah. So I want to make sure I have it for your audience too. If they want to see my personal statement, how I wrote it, how I structured it, I'll place it there for you guys to see. And I'll place my med school personal statement and my residency personal statement. So you guys can actually see how I progress. And even if you guys are high school, whatever path you are, you can start curating your story. You see what I mean? Be strategic, guys. Like, see, like, oh, I need something that goes there. Do it now.
Yeah, definitely. I'll pop up every social media. Every social media you have, if you want to reach out, like Miss Fernandez. Bro, I'm just still blown away from this episode again. Just thank you again, and we're ending off here. So just saying again, check out her, like she said, her resources, her personal statements, and that, and like not that many people do what she's doing right now, giving away personal statements to help you get into college and medical school, right? So that's like a plus right here. So thank you again, Miss
Yeah.
Fernandez. So before we end off, I just want to say thank you so much for our listeners for staying tuned and listening to this episode. I hope you took lots of notes down because Ms. Fernandez gave a lot of information this episode. So I hope you took your notes and use this episode to help you get into your future goals like medical school or whatever you plan to go in the future, right? So before we end off, I just want to say, give a shout out to Let's Go Learning. That's our organization that we tutor younger kids and to make sure our generation will be smarter, right? So please check out Let's Go Learning. And before we end off, I just want to say, everyone, just have a great day and keep on working hard to those goals and endeavors.
Hey ChatMeders, we hope you thoroughly enjoyed that episode of ChatMed. Today we're really excited to announce this video's sponsor, Luxor Royal. So come with me and let's check out what their jewelry's all about.
Whoa, I think we just teleported to Luxor Royal. So, well, here's our trusty friends showing their 3 shades of jewelry: rose gold, white gold, and yellow gold. And now, a beautiful unboxing of this cubic zirconia stone white gold snake. It truly shines. It's a great gift. Look at the packaging and the white glove treatment. Maybe I should buy this for Ryan.
We want to do something special for you guys due to all the tremendous amounts of love and support you guys have been giving us for the last 6 to 8 months. And we want to give you guys a subscriber special discount. When you check out at Luxor Royal, you use promo code LET'SGO10, you get 10% off your entire order, you get fast and free shipping, and you get beautiful jewelry to add to your closet or gift to friends and family. So be sure to check out Luxor Royal and thank them for the continued support of our channel. And we'll see you guys in the next one.